Welcome back to the Unacceptable News. Since I've done a bunch of videos about gardening today, and my honeydew and my cantaloupe and all this stuff, I did some videos about strawberries, and I want to show you something about strawberries. So I've done really bad historically with watermelons. I get these baby watermelons. I've had a really hard time growing them. This year I've got one or two little watermelons. We'll see by the end of the summer whether or not I get any more. They're doing okay. They're not great, but they're doing okay. I have done really well with cantaloupe. In fact, here's my second baby watermelon right here, if you can see it. So you can tell the difference between the males and the females. The females have a little bulb at the end. I don't think you can see that very well. My camera doesn't want to adjust, but you can see the bulb. And then your males have just a long stem at the bottom of the flower. If you can see that, there we go. That's better. All right, so you can see right here in the light, long stem and a bulb. So we've got a watermelon growing. But anyway, I've had a lot of problems growing watermelons and cantaloupes. I've done pretty well. Watermelons have done pretty terrible. And that's our biggest watermelon. If you can just see it there. There it is. You know, so maybe we'll get one or two this year, maybe we won't. But anyway, over here where our strawberries are, I kind of grow this whole area. I mean, look at it. It's full. And I do this with most of my plants because we rent and we only have so much. A low-flying plane, but we only have so much space. So I interplant, as you probably noticed, and that's why you have raspberries, you know, growing with strawberries. If you could see them down there, growing with, you know, watermelon and everything else. And so under here, we'll see that we have a whole bunch of these strawberry plants that are trying to create new plants. So they grow these runners. They come off the main plant, but a lot of times the plant will stop producing strawberries when it's going through this process. And if you can look back here, you can see a bunch of these runners, right? It takes away a lot of energy from the plant, so a lot of people cut them, which is fine. I've just cut two. Let me see this one. This one isn't quite where I want it yet, so I'm going to leave this one. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one on the ground like this and kind of get it close to the soil. That'll help it promote root growth. When it's touching the soil, it'll know, like, hey, I found soil, I found a place to grow, and it will try to grow. If I could get it to, let me try to do it over here somewhere. So that'll be good. It'll be back there in the dark somewhere. But anyway, I'm gonna cut another one right over here and just show you exactly what I'm doing. So I wait, or try to wait, until these strawberry plants have one little root. So once they grow these runners, okay, and you can see right here at the bottom, it has a little teeny tiny nub. So once it finds the ground, there we go, it'll grow that little root. All of these have them. See, this one's got it, and you can see that one's got it. It's smaller, but it's got it. Now all I do in this case is I take the plants and I find a pot of soil somewhere. I was going to use this, but it's too wet. We talked about this earlier if you were watching. So I've got here some failed basil plants. So you can see these basil leaves, they all failed, right? So all I do is take this plant, put a hole in there, and I bury this whole thing. In fact, I'll do it right now. So I pull back the soil, I plant this whole thing. Most of it rots, by the way, but I just make sure that that root is underneath the soil, just like that. Okay, that's it. And you can do this multiple in a plant, especially when they have such small roots. And you just come back a little later, and if you're lucky, some of them might die. I mean, you always have a chance that some of them will die. But if you're lucky, it'll grow more roots. And as long as you keep the soil moist, as long as the plant doesn't get eaten up by any bugs, you will get new strawberry plants. And I always point to these over here because I did the same thing with these. So in every video when I talk about this, you can see where I cut runners off of this one. I just do this with the plants, so that way the main plant will continue to produce strawberries, should continue to produce strawberries, and then these plants, you can get new plants as well as continue to produce strawberries. That's really all it is. There's a bunch more back here, a bunch more runners that I need to get to. I've been sick, so I haven't, still a bit sick. You can see this one has been able to grow a new plant, so I wasn't quick on getting this one. And you can see the runner dies off, it disconnects itself, and grows a new one, right? So you have this brand new plant that grew off of a runner. Now if you allow your plants to do this naturally, you will always have strawberries, because after a year or two, your main plants will die off, right? So your main plants will grow, they'll die off, and then the runners, the copies of your other plants will, here's a runner right here I can do. Let me get this. All right, look, this is a good one right here. It's got a great root on it. You can see the end. So now it is able to pull nutrients from the soil. Does that mean that it's going to be perfect and it's going to work? No. In fact, I would say out of these 4 that I've just done, I might get 1 or 2 of them that continue to grow if I'm lucky. Now, do I have to do this? No. I could just leave them. I could let them do it on their own. But from all the studies I've seen, it slows down the production of strawberries. And I do notice that these the strawberries that I have are ever-bearing strawberries. That means that they will produce from the beginning of the summer all the way to the end of the summer, and then they stop producing usually around August or so for me. I've had some produce into September last year, but they continue to produce strawberries over and over. The thing is every time they grow runners, what I've noticed is they stop flowering. So for instance, this year, tons and tons of strawberries all the way through March and April. And then as soon as the end of April came, all the strawberries had ripened. They've been picked. Tons of runners grew, tons of them, and no strawberries. I went around and cut the runners, and as soon as I went around and cut the runners, this is about almost a month ago, strawberry flowers everywhere. So, I mean, you can see them everywhere. Strawberry flower, strawberry flower, strawberry flower. So, to my experience, which isn't much, I'm not a strawberry farmer by any means. I mean, I technically grow them. It seems to work. Cutting them off seems to work. And this way I get, even though if I only get a few of them that grow, and then the other thing is I transplant them. So just like I've transplanted these from another location, all of these did not start there, actually. In fact, if you want to get down and dirty about it, all of these, and obviously this one's still growing, so this one will probably produce a plant. This one, I don't know, maybe. We'll see if that one will, that one might survive, who knows. But anyway, all of these, all 12 of these plants came from 6. So every strawberry that I have came from 6 original plants. So I got 6 strawberry plants 3 years ago or so, planted them, The first year we got a few strawberries, but I allowed every single one of them to grow runners. In fact, what I did was I took cups and I went over and I allowed the runner, like let's say the runner was coming off of the main plant, I stuck it in a pot. And the reason I did that is so I could space them out so they weren't all crowded in one area. And so I let them run. I let them go everywhere. I planted them. I put them in cups like this. And then once they made a new plant, I clipped it off, clipped the runner off, took the plant, and then spaced them out. So that way, now this entire patch here, which is all strawberries back here, with the exception of some, you know, some cantaloupe is running through here now, and some raspberries are running through here. This whole box was started with 6 individual plants. Not only did they grow up this entire box, but all behind here where our tomato plants are, this entire row here behind is all strawberry. It was enough, they grew enough strawberries to produce all of these over here. So all these strawberry plants over here. This one that's kind of gotten flattened a little bit. This guy here. All of these back here that you can see, if you can see them, like this one, you know, all of these. There's probably, let me guess, I don't know, 40, no, maybe 50 strawberry plants that grew from the original 6. The other thing I did was, so I've got 50 strawberry plants, if you include these 12 that I just transplanted, because I'm moving them to a new location. So they weren't doing very hot where they were. I dug them out, I put them in here, and I'm going to move them. If you include all of the plants that are there now, plus these 12, it's probably over 50 plants. And then also, the strawberries that I got the first year, I started doing this. So I started taking the seeds like I showed earlier, putting them in these seed trays, and growing these smaller strawberries. Now, this wasn't extremely successful for me. I don't know what I'm looking at right now, but it wasn't extremely successful for me the first year. I only got like 1 or 2. I did a really bad job at it. But since then, I've clearly, with all these sprouts, I've been doing fairly well at it. It takes a lot to get them through the winter if you bring them inside. You need to really take care of them inside with a lot of light, the right temperature and things like that. Our heat went out in the living room a few times and killed a lot of plants that I had indoors. But ultimately, as long as you are paying attention to them and taking care of them, you can grow these seedlings into full mature plants. Now, this is the most I've ever done at one time. So 2 trays worth, you know, you've got, I mean, I don't even know how many cells, 70 some cells per tray. You know, you've got 140, you know, seedlings that you could start here. So it's not, you know, obviously I don't need 140 strawberry plants. But if I do get them, I will probably plant them around my main garden, around the edges. And the reason I do that is because around the edges, I allow these pea plants to come up. Now, this is a bad example, but if you go around to the front where there's much more sun, where the strawberries would like to be, you can see these pea plants here that I trellis with just some simple string. I tie them up on these, and then I let the pea plants run. We had a bunch that have died off. They're, you know, we started them in the spring, so many of them have died off, and we just planted new peas a few weeks ago. And if you see, you can see the new pea plants coming up right here. It's a new pea plant, and so these will take place of the ones that have already died off for the year. I probably planted, I don't know, 50 of them. You know, all along the side. You can see where some of the older ones that are still surviving, like this guy, he needs to be plucked. And then what I do is I just save these pods for next year, let them dry out, and plant them again. But this whole row here is peas, so you see you have a lot of gaps where there's nothing really growing. Over here, you can have some volunteer tomatoes that we really don't need. We have plenty of tomatoes. We have you know, uh, um, weed that we don't, we could always pull out. Don't really need this right here. So the point is that with all this extra space running around the side, the pea plants will grow up beyond the strawberries. And then that gives you all this room over here. In fact, there's a bunch of peas that need to be picked. I got to do that today. I haven't picked them in a little while. So anyway, it gives you the perfect spot where you've got tons of light. This is where I plant a bunch of squash and stuff, so that's not exactly the area I'm talking about, but just within the first 12 inches or so around this border should be a perfect place to plant strawberries when those seedlings come up, where you can still interplant your peas and your strawberries get more than enough sun. And while we're over here, you can just look and see how many tomatoes we have. Those are all tomatoes there. These are a medium cherry. So these are not the small cherry. They should grow fairly decent size, like a medium-sized tomato. But we've probably got, I don't know, a few hundred tomatoes, I'm gonna guess. And that will turn into a few thousand. There's some Romas. These are rainbow Romas right here. These are one of my favorites, if you can see it. It's got a little nipple at the end. Right there. If you can see in there. Just barely see it. They're yellow and green, and then they turn this beautiful orange, yellow, kind of reddish color, where they're rainbow colored. But yeah, we've got hundreds of them. You can see all our tomatoes. And that will turn into a few thousand, especially once our cherries start to grow. These cherries, there's some more peas that I need to pick. These cherries over here are always our best growers because they get a lot of water from the top of the roof. So there's no gutter there, which is why it's a great place for our strawberries as well. But these grow like weeds. They will get 10 feet tall, these tomato plants, and these are a cherry variety, and we will get literally thousands. You can see already we've got plenty in here already. We will get thousands of, certainly hundreds from these 5 plants, and then total with the whole garden, we have cherry tomatoes elsewhere. We'll get thousands of them, and we just crush them. Sometimes we preserve them whole. But anyway, yeah, this wasn't supposed to be about cherry tomatoes. This was just supposed to be about transplanting these little strawberry plants. And since they have roots, you'll probably get 3 of these, I'm guessing, that'll come up, that'll survive, and that allows you to continue to produce at a high level your strawberries from your main plants that are trying to essentially copy themselves and create another copy and send out shoots, send out runners to create new plants. This entire area will probably be strawberries next year. And what I'll do is I'll still plant my tomatoes in them. I'll still plant the cantaloupes, because we have our cantaloupes and our honeydew. We run them up and we use the porch as a trellis to run the vines all the way around and fill out the entire section here with watermelon, cantaloupe, and honeydew vines. So what we'll end up having is, instead of having this big gap here where you could see this basically a 2 foot by, I don't know, 7, 8, maybe even 10 foot section is empty. Instead of having this, we'll have nothing but strawberries. So that's kind of the goal with transplanting strawberries, allowing them to grow new ones, growing new seedlings. I want all of these sections, which are empty, especially like in here, you can see